Hello, my friends. My name is Jack Ducard, and this is Sentinel Circle. Thank you for being here today. We're going to go ahead and cut straight into the topic today, which is 10 ways to manage rejection. So, we've talked about things like saying no, establishing boundaries, all these things. Well, now we're going to talk about probably one of the hardest things to do, and I see a lot of men struggling with this, is how to manage rejection. And I don't mean rejection in the sense of the dating sphere where your date or the woman that you're trying to date says no, or I got a boyfriend or whatever. No. I'm talking about rejection in other ways, okay? And the reason that I am bringing this up is one is, of course, I just literally said I'm not talking about the dating aspect, but I am talking about the dating aspect too. There are a lot of men who can't handle a no, and they end up getting themselves into trouble. And I don't like seeing that. But there's things like, being rejected for a job, being rejected by family, being rejected by a lot of things. So we're going to bring this up and we're going to talk about it. So this is an article by Psychology Today. Barbara Greenberg, PhD, the teen doctor, wrote this. Or, pardon me. No, she was involved with it. No, she wrote it. She wrote it. It was reviewed by Gary Dietrich. Sorry, I'm struggling to read today. I don't know why. Key points. It's impossible to like or to be liked by everybody. And we all have to remember that we may not be liked by everybody, and that's okay. When I worked for the school district, and this is just a quick anecdote, I apologize, but when I worked for the school district, I had a little girl come up to me crying, and apparently there was a group of girls that were not including her, and she was very hurt by this. She's sitting there crying to me. Why don't they like me? Why don't they like me? And it was an uncomfortable situation for me because, even though I'm the adult in the room, I don't have kids, and this is someone else's child, and it's a very loaded situation. So, the one thing with kids is always get down to their level. Okay, so I got down on one knee and I said, "Look, I understand how you feel. We all go through this. And it's important to understand how to deal with it. And the one thing is, do you like everybody?" And she's like, "Well, what do you mean?" I was like, "Are there people that you don't like?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, well, if you don't like everybody, well, then why does everybody have to like you?" And you could see the wheels turning, and she's still crying, but she's kind of thinking about it, and she's like, I don't know. That weak girl voice, she doesn't know. And I said, well, not everybody's got to like everybody. There are times where you're just not going to like someone, and there's going to be times where people don't like you. And it's up to you to determine if you want to dedicate energy into someone who may not like you. She was still sad, but she understood it, or at least I hope so, because after that she stopped trying to associate with that group of girls. And I will say that Ben Franklin also had an anecdote about people not liking him. And what he did is, with one of his rivals, he borrowed a book from that person and then gave it back, and that turned this rival into kind of a friend. So you can turn people into friends, but that's not the point of this video. I'm sorry. Like I said, that was the immediate reaction I had to this. Anyways, so key points: it's impossible to like or be liked by everybody. What feels like rejection may actually be something else entirely. That's interesting. Well, I can't wait to read about that. And people can learn to sit with the uncertainty associated with all sorts of life experiences. So let's go ahead and get right into that article. And this is a short one, so don't worry too much about it. There is nothing quite as painful as being rejected. It goes something like this. You are passing a colleague in the morning on the way to the coffee machine, and that colleague greets everyone but you. Okay, well, first off, if you're that colleague, you really should be greeting everyone because that's just polite. You frickin' jerk. But two is, yeah, I've seen that happen before, and yeah, it hurts. Ouch. Or perhaps you learn that your group of friends is getting together for a cup of coffee and you are not included. It stings, doesn't it? That one really drives me nuts. You're in this group, you think that you're like in the group, and then you find out that they went somewhere without you, and it's like, that really bursts your bubble. Maybe you are a college student and all of your friends got into a sorority except you. You are hurt, embarrassed, and sad. You may also feel frustrated and humiliated. Rejection is served up in all sorts of ways and is never easy. It is clear, though, that you will encounter rejection in all sorts of ways during your lifetime. Because of that, we need to have a serious conversation about how to deal with it most effectively. Let me be clear, rejection will never be easy or welcome, but it can become easier to deal with over time, and I will agree with that. Just like any other skill, time and exposure will lessen the impact because you then know how to deal with it. That's why they say age comes wisdom. Well, it's not wisdom. It's just that person's been through it more often than you have. And that's really what it boils down to is once you go through it a couple times, then it's no big deal. I have a number of suggestions to help you deal with this experience and associated feelings in a more flexible and effective manner. Number 1, do not expect everyone to like you. That goes without saying. This is an impossible expectation. You don't like everyone, do you? We can't all feel connected to each other at all times. Once you have made peace with the realization that inclusion is not always the way things will turn out, you may start feeling calmer and less reactive and hurt. Yeah, I get it. There's fear of FOMO, there's FOMO, fear of missing out. There's other things, I get that, but you gotta just learn to let go, right? Let go. There you go. We let it go. You grip onto it for dear life. Just learn to, let go. Perhaps the rejection is a blessing in disguise. This is number 2. The relationship may have stopped serving you, or it may be time to change the nature of the relationship. You do not necessarily need to end the relationship, but you may need to have contact less frequently. Perhaps weekly contact is too much for this particular friendship. Consider this an experiment with different levels of contact. I mean, this sounds a little out there for me, but sure, why not? Number 3. If a friend, colleague, or partner seems to be dropping you, maybe they have noticed that the synergy between the two of you is just not working at this point. It does not mean that you are a flawed person. The chemistry may be off at this moment. At a later point in time, it may work better. And there have been instances where a person's distant, you give them some space, they come back. Don't be afraid to just, back off, give some space. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. Who knows? Sometimes we make each other angry. In that case, we may be rejected. A cooling down period of several days or weeks may be necessary. In this case, substitute the phrase cooling down for rejection. It may not only be more accurate, but it also might feel kinder and gentler. Okay, sure. I mean, I get it. I don't really have a comment there, but keep in mind that there are always new people to meet and new relationships that can be nurtured and developed. Life is exciting in that way. We always get opportunities to meet new people if we put ourselves out there and are curious about and interested in meeting new people. And that it seems to be another topic of discussion in the future, which is a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there. And I do think that, again, people don't have confidence. There's a lot of fear and they just shut themselves off, which causes loneliness. Like I said, confidence, in my view, is the root cause of all this. And it's because, the adults, the supposed adults in the room have coddled children to the point of crippling them. There's always the stories about how the group of kids don't want to call and order a pizza because they're afraid to talk to the person on the phone, which they're not afraid to talk to the person on the phone. They're afraid of sounding stupid to the person on the phone. There's a difference. Anyways, point is in this case, without that confidence, you're missing out on a lot in life, a lot of rich experiences, rich stories, a lot of the flavors of life you're going to miss out on. Anyways, we're going to continue on. Perhaps experiencing rejection is not a bad thing. It helps us not only understand our effects on others a bit more, but every painful experience encourages us to learn new coping skills and to have more empathy for the experiences of others. And again, this is a very good point because I don't see a lot of empathy between people these days. And I'm saying empathy, not sympathy, empathy. You don't need to go through exactly what they went through to at least have some compassion for their circumstances and situations, right? But at the same time, don't be a walking doormat. If someone's going to start taking advantage of you, don't be afraid to cut them off, right? So we're going to continue. Number 7. Rejection does not always mean that the person who is rejecting you doesn't like you or find you offensive. Perhaps that person is jealous of your success. Friends often have difficulty celebrating each other's successes. I have witnessed this sort of interaction frequently, and it always makes me sad. We are, after all, supposed to be celebrating each other. And I will say that I'm going to tell on myself on this one. So I got a friend, he's an engineer, and we were good friends in college. And of course I've been upfront about how I wanted to be an engineer, but it didn't quite work out for me. And it was a time thing. I didn't have enough time. He ended up staying in school for an extra year. And like I said, I didn't have that luxury. Anyways, he became an engineer, and when he talks about his job, I mean, he's got recruiters coming after him, and life is kind of handed to him on a platter. He's got a house, he makes good money, he makes he got a raise of like $20,000. He's like almost at like what, $80,000 a year now or something like that. Meanwhile, I just got a raise at my work and I'm at $61,000. And that to me, like I know I'm doing well, but like I see that from him, and like it gets to a point where I can't talk to him because I am jealous, and I feel bad because he's a good guy. He's a very good guy to be around. He's a good friend, and it just I don't want him to think that I'm not happy for him. I am very happy for him. And I know, I suspect that he's kind of in the same boat with me with some of the things that I have in my life that he wishes he has. I can't really go into that. Otherwise I'd be telling a little too much, but my point is, there's always going to be jealousy, and you got to be able to take the jealousy out of the equation. In fact, I gotta call him tomorrow. I've been meaning to, or at least text him and say hello. I think his birthday was recent too. He's a June baby. But like I said, I feel bad. I really do feel bad, and I hope that if he does stumble upon this video, he understands that, I do recognize that I am jealous, and I'm trying my hardest not to be. I am very happy for his success, but at the same time, I wish I had that same success. I wish I had the ability to sit in a cool office all day and work on a computer, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's, so soul sucking and all that stuff. But it's like, the amount of free time he has at work. I mean, I could do so much. I could work on a website, or I could work on the game when I was working on my video game back then. I could, come up with ideas for videos and stuff. Like, I could do a lot with that free time, but because I'm driving all the time, it's like I have free time, but I've got to focus on driving. I can't work on a laptop, so either way, like, it's just one of those things, Number 8, rejection might also be what you're experiencing when the offending person is actually avoiding you. Avoidance and rejection feel painfully similar, but they are actually different. Someone who is currently avoiding you may be immersed in issues that are consuming. They may eventually find their way back to you. Well, that's nice. Usually when a person's avoiding me, it usually gets to a point where there's a law enforcement interaction in my future. That's what I noticed. And I got to say that fear has always prevented me from reaching out to specifically the opposing sex, because I'm like, oh God, what if they call the police on me? I worked so hard to get to this point, and I'm in an industry where they don't care if you're acquitted in the future. The fact that you're accused means you're going to lose your job. So when I see someone avoid me, and there is a significant difference between like a rejection and avoidance. That's when I get, oh shoot, I did something bad. I did something wrong, and really it's not me. It's their interpretation of the situation. I've noticed that, they think that I'm trying to get with them, and it's like, no, I'm just trying to be a nice person because I believe in manners and holding doors open and stuff like that. And it's not for them. It's so that way I'm polite because I appreciate politeness. I would like people to be polite with me. Therefore, I am polite to other people. And I know that, manners and politeness have kind of gone out the window, Anyways, let's continue on here. Number 9. When you experience someone pulling away from you, your tendency might be to somehow chase after that person. That makes sense because none of us like loss. Keep in mind, though, that sometimes less is more. Give the person space. Do not crowd them. Don't rush to repair whatever might be going on. Try instead to allow the other person to have time to reinitiate contact. Trust me on this one. Well, I will agree. Sometimes giving a person space, they will come back. About 8 times out of 10. That's what, 4 out of 5? Yeah. Give a person space, they'll come back. You'd be surprised. It also says here, number 10, this is the last one. You do not need to fix everything. Sometimes it makes sense to sit with some uncertainty and ambiguity. Even if you want to repair everything, that is impossible. Work on learning to be comfortable with a bit of uncertainty. It is an excellent skill to have and to teach, and I do believe that. Life is uncertain. You need to learn to deal with that part of life, and that's a good habit to be in. That's also very Machiavellian, too. Sometimes just, being that wound, letting that person just, deal with it, and then you let them come back on your terms, that sometimes is very powerful. In all, this was a very good article. So let's go ahead, cut to break, come back with comments, and then I'll give final thoughts on this. Okay, I'll be back. Thank you for being here. Hello, my friends. Jack Descartes here once again. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate it. I just would like to take a few moments of your time. Right now, we are currently raising money to host a website. We have Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, as well as a Patreon in case you'd like to donate once or you'd like to give a continued donation. The donation on the Patreon is only $3 a month. Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal, you can donate however much you want. There is no obligation. I will continue to try to provide as much content for free as possible. Once the website is up, we will use that as a hub for all Sentinel Circle related activities, including local meetups, as well as online meetups, online discussions, and videos. So again, if you could go and donate to either Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, or Patreon, all the links are in the description. We appreciate everything you have done for us. And if you can't donate, we still ask that you like, subscribe, and share. All these activities do help even in the most insignificant ways. If you do donate, you will be immortalized in our videos and the website. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Now back to our scheduled program. And we're back. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So the first comment is going to be from D-Man 50AMM. Hello, D-Man. It's good to see you here. He posted, take care of you, SC. And this was when I posted about how I came back from training and I was just exhausted. I didn't have that fire in my belly for videos. I needed that break badly. When I came back, and I talked about it in a previous video, I mean, I was exhausted, and I haven't fully recovered. Like I'm noticing that I'm still kind of sluggish, but this video recording session has been a lot better than the last one was. In fact, the last one I got through about half a video, and then I said, "Screw this! I am not feeling it." I'm again a person that needs to have a passion to really drive hard, you know. Otherwise, it's like, well, what's the point? So, D-Man, I appreciate it. I am taking care of myself. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being a friend. I appreciate it. Drizzle's Tech Games, Drizzles, something like that. If I'm mispronouncing, I'm sorry, man. I've spoken with you before. You're a good guy, you know. Anyways, this was under the video about the epidemic of female teachers preying on male students. It says here, or when they do address it, they just claim the boy was lucky. And yes, that really upsets me because that's the equivalent of a woman who is dressed provocatively saying, well, she had it coming, or she was asking for it, or whatever, you know. And I've noticed that that's from like older generations. You know, they see the hot teacher doing things to their students, and that's all they see. What they don't see is the kids are in a position where they don't know what to do. They feel like they're getting taken advantage of. They're scared. They're lonely. They don't know who to turn to. And it's especially bad for males because, you know, men don't have the support structure like we do, like women do. You know, a woman goes to a friend and says, oh, I was abused by this teacher. Well, then they're like, okay, well, we'll go to the principal's office together. A boy who goes to a friend and says that, they're going to be like, because, again, men don't go through that. It's very sad. And hopefully we can, you know, change that and say, no, this is not right. This is not okay. And the teachers need to stop taking advantage of students, regardless of gender. Freedom Fighter, Sentinel Circle. It's my first time checking out your live stream. Good job. Well, thank you, Freedom Fighter. I appreciate it. Hopefully that's not your last. I hope that you will at least be in the chat, and maybe one day you can join us in voice chat in one of those get-togethers. Either way, I appreciate you being a part of it, and thank you so much for being there. Godfather, it's always good to talk to Godfather. He says, welcome back, Jack. And I think Nick, this is the last one. Nick NCK 4888, YouTube is blocking your notifications from my view. And this is again why I want to build the website, is because of stuff like this. This is, we've constantly talked about for years that YouTube is repressing. So people go to Rumble, and I don't want to sit there and say that like YouTube is that advanced that like you say certain words in a video and they instantly like mess with you, but who knows? Maybe they have that technology. Who knows? I mean, when I put a video into an AI, it says that it can discern, but it can't. So I don't know. I don't know what they have over at Google. But Nick, I'll reach out to you in some capacity, and hopefully we can resolve it. And if not, then I mean, when I reveal videos, posts, I'll actively reach out to you when I post, so that way you know. Okay, and then that was the last. Yeah, that's the last one. So let's go ahead and. Oh, that was not a fade. My mistake. I'm sorry. I clicked the wrong button. I apologize. Anyways, again, the point of this article and this video is men struggle to handle rejection. In some regards, yes, romantically. That was not the point of the video. I didn't mean to go into the romantic aspect, but again, I know that there are individuals who are romantically interested and they don't get what they want and they go a little that's so crazy. It's not worth your freedom if you're rejected by someone who you think you love. Just if they reject you, walk away. I know it hurts. I get it. You build this image up in your head, and yeah, it doesn't work out. It happens to everybody every single day. You're not the first one. You're not going to be the last one. Okay. I would just strongly tell you, don't do it. Walk away. Same thing with just other acquaintanceships, relationships, whatever. It's not worth actively pursuing if they say no. The moment the no is uttered, you have to walk away. And it's, there's a freedom aspect there. Again, I don't want people to, wind up in a cell like I did. Your freedom is more valuable. Trust me on this, okay? Being able to exercise your freedoms, that's more valuable. Trust me on this, all right? I've spent a lot of money trying to clear my name. And that's a lot of time and energy and money I will never get back because someone lied. And I know it sucks that we live in a society where a person's lies can get you in trouble. I mean, we did that video where the woman accused the man in the wheelchair of kicking down her door and running away. And I watched another video recently where, on Leto's Law, speaking of, if you're not subscribed to Leto's Law, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to Leto's Law. He's good. He did a video on, oh God, it was another situation where, that's what it was. He was doing, the guy was at a car wash. He was washing his car. He used his debit card for 2 minutes worth of a car wash, right? But the problem is the timestamp on the security cam was wrong, and the police were looking for a card thief. And what happened was the card that was stolen was used at the timestamp that showed that dude was using the card, but the timestamp was incorrect. That's what it was. And the guy had to spend $5,000 after a year to clear his name. Because there was an active arrest warrant in the same situation. They got an arrest warrant for the dude. right? But they never questioned him. They didn't approach him. They did nothing. It was just he found out that he had the arrest warrant one day when he went to go renew his vehicle. You know, his vehicle tags. He had an arrest warrant and he wound up in jail. And like I said, he had to pay like $5,000. And they found out that no, he was correct. He was using his card. Just the timestamp on the video was incorrect. That's all it was. You know? And I know for a fact, working in my industry, that those timestamps are always incorrect. You know, because like it's not like they pull from Microsoft. Excuse me. The time server. We have to actively go in there and manually change the times. And there have been times where, you know, I pull logs and I go to look at the computer logs or something, and the timestamp's all wrong. Because, you know, time drift and all that stuff. Like it could be a couple hours from, you know, when, you know, the time I'm supposed to be looking for in the actual time. You know, so, you know, I've always said that computer evidence should not be admitted fully into a court case, because a lot of that stuff can be manipulated. And as much as I don't want to say this, the court system neither has the time nor the care to determine what's real and what's fake. They don't have the resources, time, nor do they care usually. Like there have been instance after instance after instance where people submit fake emails and the court takes them at their word. And you can easily prove that, but the court has no interest. You know, so now we're getting into a situation where people are falsifying evidence, committing crimes in order to win like civil matters. And that ends up destroying lives because they're dirtbags. Anyway, so back to the whole point. What I was saying is learning how to be able to handle rejection. It's hard, but you need to do it for your safety and your survival. Okay, it's one of those essential skills. Like saying no is an essential skill, you know, and not knowing how to do that, like, to me is a non-starter. You need to learn how to do that. I don't know if my audience knows who Paul Harrell is. They call him Uncle Paul, the very famous weapons tuber, who recently passed this year due to cancer. He talked about being in high stress situations, and he said that in order to be able to function in one, you got to train in one. And he gave some very interesting suggestions, one of which was go to karaoke night. And I think that I'm going to give the same advice. I have not been to karaoke night, but I have been, I've done public speaking myself. And, you know, the first time I did it was very hard, but I did it and practice. And it's still hard, but once I get going, I really get going hard. But I would, like I said, karaoke to me is probably the easiest high stress situation to get into. You know, go to a karaoke night and, you know, go sing a song, you know, and don't be afraid to butcher it horribly. You know, if you want hard mode, try and do it without liquid courage. But yeah, I really think that that's probably the best advice, and I would encourage everyone here to go to karaoke night at your local karaoke institution, and, you know, go put yourself in that situation. You'll see real fast it's not so bad, but it practices you on being able to handle high stress environments. And I think that that's where everybody needs to do, is learn how to handle high stress environments, and they'll feel immensely better. Anyways, that's it for me. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Everything's going well. Website's going well. You know, we're doing pretty okay here. We're not the best, but you know what? Pretty okay. So just, you know, hopefully things go well on your end. I hope you're doing okay, and we'll see each other in the future, okay? Have a good one. Bye.